Thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet Voice You Know With the News You Trust studio, sponsored by Grain Equipment Company, where innovation meets execution. I'm Dale Menyo. Congress has yet to release a vote on the year-end legislation package, while recent negotiations have included funding for the federal government, a farm bill extension, economic assistance for agriculture producers, and natural disaster recovery aid. Congressional leadership has signaled that the package does not currently include economic assistance. In response to this development, Kenneth Hartman Jr., president of the National Corn Growers Association, released a statement. We are deeply disappointed that congressional leadership appears to be at an impasse over crucial economic assistance for farmers in an end-of-the-year legislation package. Corn growers are faced with low prices and high input costs, and economic aid would provide them with critical relief during challenging economic times. While these developments are disheartening, we call on Congress to resume negotiations and pass legislation that includes economic assistance while there's still time. Also, as the 2024 time clock quickly dissolves, negotiations to include economic assistance for agriculture producers in Congress and a year spending package also appears to be on the meltdown. These comments from Caleb Ragland, president of the American Soybean Association and soy farmer from Kentucky. He says we urge congressional leadership to return to the negotiating table and find a path forward, a package that does not include both economic and disaster assistance for our farmers who have suffered significantly from unforgiving market conditions, disastrous weather phenomena, and for many, a combination of both, simply does not meet the mark for what agriculture and specifically our soy growers need. We will oppose any supplemental spending package that does not provide meaningful assistance to farmers who need it now to stay afloat in 2025. Soybean prices have dropped 40% over the past 2 years, compounded by an already insufficient farm safety net. This has made it increasingly difficult for farming operations to remain viable. Without consideration for U.S. farmers who provide feed, fuel, food, and fiber for our country, rural communities, and consumers nationwide will likely feel the residual effects of a mounting agricultural recession. Today's weather brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Here's the forecast.
We've got a damp start to the week here across Ohio. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at that forecast update. We had some rain move through yesterday. Round 2 trying to lift up into the state today. Most of this happening midday on through afternoon, but I think we have to allow for another 1/10 to at least 3/4 of an inch. Best chances of these rains in Ohio will be in southwestern parts of the state. But I think everybody gets it. I'm going to put coverage at 100% by the time all is said and done. That will take probably to just before sunrise tomorrow morning. Now, we stay mild enough that, again, this is all going to be rain. Temperatures try and pull back a little bit behind this. I think we're cooler for Tuesday. We're definitely dry, but we're not seeing a huge surge of cold air just yet. The warm air versus cold air battle, the colds to the north, the warms to the south, comes back and plays into our forecast dramatically on Wednesday. We've got another round of moisture coming up from the west and southwest. The heaviest moisture stays just south of the Ohio River into Kentucky and West Virginia, but I think we see moisture come in here, and it's coming as cold air shows up as well, especially later in the day and in the evening. So maybe it starts as rain, but I do think we end up with wet snowflakes to finish. Minor accumulations across Ohio, especially through the overnight Wednesday night. We are then much colder to finish the week Thursday. Clipper system trying to come through the Great Lakes on Friday. I think we feel clouds down here, but probably not much precipitation. If anything, some overnight light snow and flurries in northern parts of Ohio Friday night into Saturday. Saturday is cold with high pressure sitting on top of us. It's an Arctic high. That stays through Sunday and Monday of next week. We are chilly, I believe, all the way into Christmas. Maybe not as cold Christmas Eve and Christmas Day is what we're seeing this weekend, but I do not see us getting another round of very, very mild air in here. At this point, I have to say we might see a few flurries on Christmas morning as well. That seems to be a bigger story farther west. Behind it, though, finally, as we get into the weekend of the 28th and 29th, we are warming, but bringing rain back as well. I'm meteorologist Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. Let's check in now with Dusty Sonnenberg.
I'm visiting today with Andy Farnham. He is with AG Irrigation. Andy, Ohio is not typically a state where we think a lot about irrigation, but really in some areas it can make a big difference, especially with the weather conditions we've had the past couple years.
So you're right. The weather in the last couple of years, especially, we're in dramatic differences, a lot of wet or dry. There's not a lot of mediocre anymore. In the last couple of years, we've seen pockets of drought where irrigation, saving a crop or bringing a crop to its full potential. Overall, year to year, you could always use some irrigation. That's why in Ohio, we call it a supplemental irrigation state. We don't have to have it to survive per se, but to unlock the full yield potential of the crop and of the land, that extra inch or 2 inches or 3 inches of rain at the right time can really do that for us.
That's exactly what I've heard from the guys that do have irrigation here in the state, is being able to get that water at that exact time that you really need it when we're in that dry spot can make a real difference. Well, you also mentioned maximizing the ground, getting more for less, if you will. Talk about that aspect of the value that irrigation brings.
Yeah, so everybody's seen the increase in land prices over the last few years, in the $10, $12, $15,000 an acre. So for, a 10, 15%, 20% of that value, you can add irrigation to your land and increase the yields by 20, 25%. And with that, you're not increasing your tax base. You're not having to add equipment. You don't need a bigger sprayer, a bigger planter, bigger combine. So for the same amount of time invested, you have a larger return on the acres that you own.
My guest again today is Andy Ham. He's with AG Irrigation. Andy, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Darcy.
Well, delegates discussed many important topics, including carbon sequestration and mental health, at the Ohio Farm Bureau's 106th annual meeting. Debate and discussion to set the next year's policy agenda was completed by 349 delegates representing Ohio's 88 counties. The strength of Farm Bureau's advocacy is planted in truly grassroots process, said Ohio Farm Bureau Vice President of Policy Jack Irvin. New policy included discussions of land use and energy at both the state and national levels, particularly when farmland is used for energy installations. Delegates proposed national policy that supports incentives for renewable energy in rural areas that prioritizes energy production on land not sustainable for agricultural production. Delegates also updated policy related to wildlife management. Also top of mind were concerns about property security and trespassing, resulting in new policy supporting law enforcement notification to landowners whenever trespassing or property damage occurs. Ohio Farm Bureau's mission is working together for Ohio farmers to advance agriculture and strengthen our communities. Back with more after this.
Since 1926, Nationwide has been rooted in agriculture. Founded as the Farm Bureau Mutual Automobile Insurance Company with a mission to protect farmers and their communities, we honor our legacy by offering solutions that evolve with the complex needs of today's farms. As the leading insurer of America's farms and trusted by 8 farm bureaus for 100 years and counting, Nationwide is on your side. Number 1 insurer based on 2023 direct written premium per AM Best. Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates, Columbus, Ohio.
Did you know soybeans' number 1 customer is animal agriculture? That includes Ohio's dairy farms. High oleic soybeans have long been highlighted for their use in human food, but it can also be a benefit for dairy cows. Research shows it helps boost milk fat concentration and milk fat yield. That means more profitability. Soybeans, feeding the industry that feeds us. Brought to you by Ohio soybean farmers and their checkoff.
Beginning in January, the U.S. Department of Agriculture's National Ag Statistics Service will spend several weeks gathering information about land ownership, income, expense, debt, asset, demographic, and other landlord characteristics to provide detailed information from all agricultural landowners across Ohio as the agency conducts the Tenure, Ownership, and Transition of Agricultural Land, or TOTAL as an acronym, survey. TOTAL is a joint effort between NAS and USDA's Economic Research Service. The information farmers and ranchers provide through the service influences national and state policy-making decisions. In addition, TOTAL data are used to calculate the farm sector portion of the gross domestic product. TOTAL will measure the state of farmland ownership, said Ben Torrance, state statistician of USDA's NAS office. The results of the survey will help shape federal, state, and local farm policies and will help farmers and landowners to plan out Ohio farmland rental agreements. In an effort to obtain the most accurate data, NASS will reach out to more than 40,000 producers nationwide, including over 1,500 in Ohio between January and April. The 2024 total survey in Ohio focuses on landowner farm cost and returns. The survey also includes questions on conservation practices, farm and household finances, and off-farm employment. In January, interviews will begin reaching out to those farmers who have not yet responded by mail or online. We appreciate their time, and we're here to help them with the questionnaire so that their information will continue supporting sound agricultural decision-making. In addition to producing accurate information, NASS has a strong set of safeguards in place to protect the confidentiality of all farmers who respond to this survey. Time now for the Louis Dreyfus Grain Analysis, brought to you by the Ohio Soybean Council and your soybean checkoff. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets finished last week on a lower note. Corn down 1 to 2, beans down 7 to 9. Wheat markets were lower as well, 5 to 6 in Chicago and KC, down about 4 to 5 in Minneapolis. What were the stories late last week? Well, honestly, it felt like it was a little bit of profit taking from the week and also some disappointment on the part of traders that we just couldn't grovel higher after some surprises and some friendly things earlier in the week, especially on the WASDE report. But as we kind of look back through it, grain futures were eyeing contract lows in soybean meal, and we had the expiration of December futures, so that was playing into both corn and soybean meal. The December-March corn spread pushed out to an 8-cent December premium on Monday before collapsing to a 15.5-cent discount last Friday. December-January soy meal futures also pushed out to near full carry before trading at about $4 the late morning to early afternoon on Friday. The December-March wheat spread held a wide 19.75-cent March spread. The U.S. holds more than adequate grain supplies, and the December spreads moved out to reflect that point. The commercials put out cash supply. The Jan and December-March grain and soy meal spreads widened as well. All of it basically says there's no reason. If you look at the spreads, especially as we moved into that last trading day or the expiration of the December futures, there's no reason for the markets to feel exceptionally bullish here. And that's tough to actually say out loud because, look, on Friday we had another flash reported sale. 200,000 metric tons of soybeans sold to an unknown buyer, rumored to be China. The day before that, last Thursday, it was 334,000 metric tons. So we're still selling stuff, and we still can't say definitively that we've got a bullish scenario ramping up here because there's just too doggone much grain laying around. Argentine corn exports are becoming more aggressive. Offers on Friday were $1 to $2 per metric ton below the U.S. The chart that we've been looking at on Argentina monthly corn exports shows a much more aggressive export stance through November and into the first half of December here. I'm Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. I'll have your overnight figures after this.
Hi, everyone. This is Dale Minio from the Ohio AgNet. For a quarter of a century, I powered my truck with biodiesel, traveling the state promoting agriculture. Biodiesel is a reliable, high-performance fuel that works in any diesel engine without modification. The best part is that with every mile driven, I'm fueling the economy, doing good for the environment, and supporting soybean farmers. Learn how using biodiesel can add value to every bushel of soybeans grown at soyohio.org.
Today's market's brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. To start the week, May corn overnight, $4.50, up 3/4. September, $4.36, up 1 1/4. December 25 corn, $4.40.5, up 1 1/2. March beans, $9.99, up 4. August beans, $10.17 1/4, up 3 1/2. If you're looking at next September, $10.04 3/4, up 2 1/2. The July new crop wheat is $5.70, up a penny and 1/4. If you carried it to September of next year, $5.82 1/4, up 1 1/2. In livestock, December cattle, $193.65, up $1.52. February, $192.02, up $1.17. February lean hogs, $85.60, up $1.12. April, up $1.30 at $89.75, and that's where we run out of pluses. March feeder cattle, $257.67, down 90. April down 70 at 258.52. Thanks for joining us. This is the Ohio AgNet.